Hello, everyone. Welcome to the end of the year wrap up we're doing for this podcast this year. Today, we're talking about the best and worst media we experienced in 2024. Okay, so first of all, we're starting with dishonorable mentions. For me, I have, let me see. I'm going to only do two of these because one of them I've already talked about. One of my dishonorable mentions is Son of Batman. I don't want to go over this again. There was weird discussions in this movie. Don't watch the movie, just watch our review because that movie was bad. It was terrible, and I do not want to talk about it anymore. My next dishonorable mention is this is so bad. The Genius Prince's Guide to Raising a Nation Out of Debt. This is one of those really trashy light novels that turned into an anime, and this is here's my thing. I would only recommend this to you if you were a straight man who was really into war. And I completely mean that in a derogatory way, because why are you into war? Like why are you like that? War is bad, and I feel like the fact that people are like strangely into reading about war for the wrong reasons is so strange, and I feel like that kind of person is the kind of person who would enjoy this anime, because this anime, like, here's my question: how often does war happen in medieval times? Because this anime is basically like takes place in a fantasy medieval world, and there's like a war happening every 2 episodes, and I'm like, is that common? Is that just me? Like, it felt really common.
I think it was common in history. Europe
Okay.
was a mess. They were fighting each other over like which sect of Christianity was the best.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Even though it is common, I still have issues with this. Like, there was this one scene where the main character was sleeping, and like his assistant, like his government assistant who like helps him like fill out paperwork and stuff, she was like, "Oh, what are you thinking about? Are you thinking about me?" And then he says, "Boobs. I really want to squeeze those boobs." And I was like, "Sir, what is funny about this? This is not comedy. This is disgusting." There's also this whole thing with like fantasy racism that I could go into, but I'm gonna do a full review on this anime and talk about how bad it is. So just watch out for that.
That was a heavy hitter. My only dishonorable mention was Batman Assault on Arkham. I just remember not liking this at all. I think it had to do with I didn't necessarily like any of the characters. There was weird romances going on that I was not partial to, and then also just the way that the women were written and acted in this was very strange. It was just not fun to watch. I also think I watched it when I was angry, which just makes my memories of it even worse. But yeah, that's my only dishonorable mention.
Okay, I have two more to go. My next dishonorable mention is A White Rose in Bloom. This is a lesbian romance that takes place in a boarding school, and Mal coined this term, and I really want to use this term again. It's messy high school lesbians being messy high school lesbians. And I don't think I can do that anymore. Bloom and 2 is my favorite like manga of all time, my favorite like comic series of all time, and it is very much messy high school lesbians being messy high school lesbians. This I felt like was on a whole other level, where like one girl saw another girl kissing another girl, and she's like, "I saw you two kissing," and before the girl can say that, the other girl who was kissing the other girl who got seen slapped her, and then the first volume of the manga ends with these two girls just bitch slapping each other, and I was like, okay, this is too much. I can't deal with messy high school lesbians anymore. Even though Bloom and 2 definitely had a bit of messiness to it, this manga just was on a whole another level. And another thing, I just feel like the romance isn't compelling. I can't see why these two characters should get together at all. So there are two genders in the lesbian romance, the blonde one and the brunette one. The blonde one, I don't understand why the brunette one likes her, because the blonde one acts like really cold towards the brunette one. So I'm just like, why do you like her? She doesn't like you back. It was just messy, and I couldn't get into it. It's called A White Rose in Bloom. I don't recommend this. It does have mixed reviews, and I completely understand why. I think those are all my dishonorable mentions.
Honorable mentions now? Or should we wait?
I think we should talk about our worst first.
Okay. Okay. All right. So we'll do our bottom three, or top three, worst, whatever, however you'd say it. My first is going to be The Amazing Digital Circus. I just think this is a disappointment ranking. Once again, I watched an animated show that was hyped to hell and did not deliver, at least for me. I didn't like where the story was going, and it didn't feel like they were using the characters to their full potential. This is very much a situation where I was not the target audience, which kind of makes me sad, because truly, I just want to like at least one of these popular animated web series. But at this point, I just don't think those are in the cards for me.
Are we gonna watch episode 3? Because it came out, and we were planning on watching the entire season. So I just want to know by now, so that way we make it clear to our audience.
You know, I'll try.
Okay. We'll have to put that in the schedule then. Maybe next year.
I will say on record, I'll try.
And when you try, make it clear that you're trying with the bare minimum.
Oh, for sure, obviously.
Yeah, yeah. Anyways, my worst. Which one should I talk about first? Okay, I'm gonna talk about the one I hated the least, and that is Why I Was Late. This is a book of poetry. Ill. Okay, here's the thing. I'm gonna try to not be too harsh because this is by a trans author, and I want to stand up for the queers. So here's the thing. This book of poetry just was not good, and there are two poems in this book that had to do with Star Wars, and one of them was talking about how R2D2 and C3PO were gay lovers, and it talked about how they were having gay sex. And then another poem was talking about how this trans man wanted to have sex with Chewbacca. It was just weird, and I did not like it.
I remember you texted me about this, and
Yes.
I read the text on my break while I was at work, and I was disturbed.
Imagine how I felt while listening to the audiobook of this book. I was like,
I
what?
was like, no!
And like one thing is reading it, but another thing is hearing it out loud. And I was like, this is disgusting. I can't. No, this book of poetry just was not good. And I don't want to be mean, but this author just isn't a good author, at least in my opinion. Like, I need you to go back to writing class. I need you to go go read up on some how to write novels or nonfiction books, I guess. And I need you to learn.
Knowledge is power, guys. Go to school. Okay, my next worst one is well, obviously, Teen Titans Go. This show made me feel old and angry. It really made me really reevaluate how I feel about episodic shows because unlike you, Marco, I love episodic shows. But the kind of randomness that was executed in this was bad. It didn't feel good. I think the problem is that the story didn't flow. Like, it felt like we were starting and then stopping and then starting and then stopping. And then we did a U-turn and then we had to take a detour because that road was blocked. And that's the best way I can describe the writing. It just felt bad.
The next worst media that I've experienced this year is the Great British Bump Off. So here's the thing. I think I might have enjoyed this more when I was in high school, and that's not a good thing. So I actually have read more from this author's works when I was in high school. They're the author of a long-running comic series called Giant Days, and I think I was less harsh in those days, and because of that, I was still able to enjoy Giant Days. However, there are a lot of similarities in Giant Days and in this comic, The Great British Bump Off. And I feel like because of that, I realized that I probably wouldn't enjoy Giant Days anymore. And if I read this when I was younger, I probably would have. But basically, I just didn't find this mystery to be compelling. I wasn't interested in the characters, and the humor just was not funny to me. Yeah, it just wasn't my thing.
All right, so I think the worst media I consumed this year. I'm roping three things in one because to me it is a trilogy. And I'm calling it the Damien trilogy, which is Son of Batman, Batman vs. Robin, and Bad Blood. Gross, I think is the best way to describe these movies. I just think the writers didn't understand Batman and Bruce as characters. And it was also, I just think, a horrible showcase for Damien, the character. They were inconsistent with Damien's character and his motives and his morals in every movie. And I think that was the issue with all the characters. They all felt really inconsistent. I'm not even gonna go into Talia's character. And here's the thing, I'm not particularly interested in her, but even I'll defend her and say these movies made her an irredeemable monster. If you're interested in mine and Marco's complete thoughts, watch the episodes on it. If you want to hear two people just be angry and grossed out, watch the episodes. But it just feels like these writers wanted to make edgy, creepy, uninspiring movies, and then last minute remembered they had to use DC characters. And I still can't believe these got good ratings. It makes my intestines writhe in disgust.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. The main reason these aren't on my worst is because I want to talk about media other than Batman, because if I did, it would only be Batman movies on my worst. Because Son of Batman, what was the other one? Batman vs. Robin, and the last one, Bad Blood. And then there was Assault on Arkham too, which was pretty bad. So they would be on my worst. I just didn't want to talk about them already because we have talked about them before. But my last worst is another light novel isekai turned into an anime, and that is I've been killing slimes for 300 years and maxed out my level. Oh my god, here's the thing. 50-year-old children who do not age. So Mal and I have had this discussion about Nimona because Nimona is like in the body of like a 17-year-old and is like 1,000 years old. But like here's the thing. In Nimona, it isn't like a weird fetish woo thing, but in this anime there are like 50-year-olds that look like toddlers, and it's definitely like a weird fetish thing because like the way they talk, they act like they're like babies. They like talk in this like ooh voice. It's so nasty, so gross. Yeah, that's my main thing. But there was also this weird thing, like you could tell that this was written by a man. Just one of the woman characters was so sexual, like sensual, like it was very uncomfortable. Like she was always like going like this with her boobs. She was always like putting her boobs first. It was weird, and I don't like how the main character pointed it out a lot, even though she was a woman. It was weird. Like I feel like there's this weird slut shaming with her too. I did not like this. Yeah, it was just bad. Anyways, let's move to our good stuff now. Okay, my first honorable mention is Batman Under the Red Hood. This is a really good movie. I really enjoyed it. I love how Jason Todd's story was explored in this. I feel like his character was really interesting to watch, and I like how he was not okay. I liked how he was mentally not in a good place, and I really liked that. Like it wasn't too dark. It wasn't like etchy for the sake of edginess. I felt like they were trying to go somewhere with this darkness of the character. And I just really love how this movie ended with Jason Todd being like, "Why did you let the Joker live? Like he literally killed me and you didn't know that I was still alive. Like why did you let him live?" Like that was such an interesting thing to go through. I really like that. Yeah, this is just a competent Batman film and I really enjoyed it.
Okay, one of my runner-ups is Big Top Burger. Literally, the only reason why this isn't in my top three is because I wanted to only have ones that, like, okay, I'm kind of lying, but like, I wanted to make a list of things that like I consumed this year, and that's kind of a lie because I have watched the Batman movies, but I feel like the Damien movies were an exception because those were like exceptionally horrible. But I watched Big Top Burger a while ago, and an amazing show that everybody should watch. But I just feel like there were so many other things that I consumed this year that I wanted to put on the list.
It's also really short. The first and second season combined is like 30 minutes. You could watch it in like 30 minutes and it'll be one of the best things you've ever experienced. So please watch it. My next honorable mention is Mammoths at the Gates. This is a book series called, oh my god, why did I write this down? It's called The Singing Hill Cycle. The first book is called The Empress of Salt and Fortune. This is a fantasy novel that takes place in like an Asian-esque world. It's by an Asian author, but basically it's about this cleric who like walks around the world and basically writes down history and like is learning about the history of the world and basically creating a documentation of the world's history. Each novel is really interesting. They're very short. Like the first novel is like a historical mystery. The second novel is like a thriller. The third novel is about like I forgot what the third novel is about. The fourth novel, though, which is Mammoths at the Gates, is basically about the main character going back to their hometown and seeing how it's changed. Basically, someone from where they grew up has died, and it's about them like grieving over this character while also learning about how their friend who didn't leave their hometown or home place has changed, and like how their friendship has cracked throughout the time that they spent alone from each other. It's a really poignant and really amazing novel about grief. I just really enjoyed it. And the fifth novel that came out this year was also really great. It's kind of like a gothic horror. It's really interesting and it's really fucked up. The fifth novel, and I really enjoyed it. This is just a really strong like novella fantasy series, and I strongly recommend it.
Okay, my last honorable mention is She Loves to Cook and She Loves to Eat. Let me tell you something. Literally, the only reason this is in the honorable mentions is because I only chose three for the best, and I already had a manga on the list. Literally, the only reason. This is an amazing manga, a beautiful one that explores sensitive topics with sensitivity and knowledge. It just makes it feel tasteful, and it makes it feel like the writer was writing these stories because they really wanted to and not because they wanted to like find some niche and like exploit something. Truly a beautiful story. I'm not sure by the time this comes out, but we either have already put up a mediocre monthly episode about She Loves Cooking, She Loves to Eat, or we will. So check that out. But yeah, honestly, that's a car. Honestly, I can say without a doubt, one of the best media that I have consumed in my life.
Yes, it's definitely an amazing romance. I've only read the first volume. The second and third and fourth volume are coming in the mail for me, and I'm really excited for it because I have heard nothing but good things about it, and I really did enjoy the first volume of that series. So the first best is this novel I read. It's called I Who Have Never Known Men. And Mal and I have actually talked about this, and I feel like I agree with Mal in the sense that if Mal read this, they definitely would not like it. But I personally really enjoyed it. So basically, we follow this main character who all their life they've been trapped in this cell. And in this cell, there are a bunch of women, and basically they've only grown up in this cell, and they've only ever known this cell. And in this cell, there are also guards who watch them, and these guards are men, and these are the only men that she'll ever know. And basically, one day the men disappear. They go somewhere, and because they disappear, the women in the cage are able to find a way to unlock the cage and escape. And it's basically about them escaping from this cage and discovering what's out there in the world now that they are no longer trapped. And it's a really interesting novel. I really enjoyed it. It's really amazing. Mal and I did have a discussion about this, and Mal said like they would hate this because the fact that the guards are men is something they would not enjoy. And I get that, but I also think that's kind of the point. Yeah, I just think this is a really interesting novel. I really enjoyed how the ending went. Basically this main character is alone and like figures and has to like deal with being alone throughout this whole journey. And how because they didn't grow up like out in the outside world, how they only ever knew how they were basically in the cage ever since they were a child, how they're different from the rest of the women that were part of the outside world before they were in the cage. That was just really interesting. I really loved that like dynamic between her and the rest of the cast of the characters. It was just a really interesting novel, and I strongly recommend this.
All right, so my first best is a novel. It's Eyes on Her by Eden Derry. This is a thriller novel. Now, I have found out that I absolutely love thrillers because I need something to always be going on in a book in order for me to want to read it. It's also pretty short. It's like less than 250 pages, which is also a plus because I love short books. The story was pretty basic, and the main character was at times frustrating, but it truly was understandable. And in hindsight, the twist was kind of predictable, but if you binge read it like I did, you might think the ending was as exciting as it was for me. I think the only thing I didn't like about the book was that it was set in England, and every time they'd say an English slang word, it jump scared me because I forgot. I don't think I would recommend this for a general audience just because I think more people would not like it. One of the main reasons for that may be because the descriptions for the characters were very limited. I literally found out the main character was a blonde on like the second to last page of the book, and personally, I love that. I know that irritates a lot of people. They love like a lot of detail. They want to know exactly like how the air feels and what time it is and where the sun is in regards to like where the character is standing. But I love a book with minimal detail, especially when it comes to the characters, because then I can just create the characters that I want to see in the story. But overall, this was the exact type of book I'm interested in. Oh yeah, well, also there were lesbians in it. I forgot to say. The main character is a lesbian, and she does do lesbian things, and that's it.
My next best is a graphic novel called Where Black Stars Rise. Now, Mel and I were actually going to do a video because I was thinking of making like a YouTube channel, but I didn't end up making one because stuff happened. But basically, we recorded this video where Mel chose what graphic novels I would buy from Barnes & Noble. And one of the graphic novels that Mel ended up choosing for me was this graphic novel, Where Black Stars Rise. Where Black Stars Rise is a psychological horror. Basically, we follow this therapist, and he is treating this character with schizophrenia. And basically, stuff happens. This character with schizophrenia runs away, and this therapist goes after them because they're like, it's my fault that they ended up going through this crisis. So stuff happens and a bunch of horror happens. It's basically about this main character going through a bout of psychosis. I would not recommend this to someone who has schizophrenia or psychosis, right? Because I feel like for representation of those things, I don't think this does a good job exploring that like as representation. However, as horror, as just an interesting storytelling, I just really enjoyed it, and I personally really loved it. Again, I would not recommend this to those kind of people, but overall, I think this is a really amazing graphic novel of horror. I just really love the psychological aspects. It really just hit me hard, and I really enjoyed it. I just feel like this is one of those books where I get it, and I understand why other people don't get it. Yeah, this book has mixed reviews, but I still love it. So yeah.
All right, my next choice is Over the Garden Wall. Potatoes and molasses, am I right, ladies? This was such a surprising banger for me. And I think this is the only thing that I, A, have not previously seen before, and B, something that we've reviewed this year. That is something that I have rewatched and plan on rewatching every autumn in the future. The aesthetic, the story, the characters, and the soundtrack. We talked about the musical numbers, not so much the soundtrack. I listened to it in full, and it is so beautiful. Truly, the only thing I didn't like about this was Elijah Woods. his character, not him. I have zero vendetta against the actor, the person, Elijah Woods, but his character was just a piece of shit in this movie, and I really could not understand his motives. But besides that, every other character in this show was just amazing.
Did you see the 10th anniversary stop motion animation that was uploaded 5 hours ago?
Oh, wow, I guess I'm a fake fan because I haven't.
Literally, it showed up on my recommended feed, and I'm like, why is it recommending this to me? I thought it was an okay show, but I don't love it. I just can't get over Elijah Woods, you know?
I know.
But I do understand why people like this. I think it's a solid show. I just don't think it's something I enjoyed like that much. Though I did enjoy it. The last favorite thing I've experienced this year is a Batman movie, and that was Batman Mask of the Phantasm. This is just a really good movie exploring who Batman is as a character. There are a bunch of scenes about him like grieving over his parents and like him being like, why is this something I want to do? Like, why am I doing this? I think it's just a really amazing movie for the first ever Batman anime movie. It's just really solid. I don't think there's gonna be any other Batman movie that tops this because it is just really amazing in my eyes. I also love the white woman, I forgot her name. I really love her as a character. I don't want to see her in anything else because I feel like they're probably gonna mess her up in any other piece of media regarding Batman, but in this movie she was really amazing. Yeah, I just think this is a really amazing movie about Batman's character, his backstory, what makes him him.
I think they did put her character in a Batman Catwoman comic recently.
Are they lesbians? Are they lesbians?
Sadly, no. I don't think that
Ugh.
they left Bruce for each other, but I do think that her character comes back. I don't know to what extent because I haven't read it, but
I did like where she left off at the end, even though it was a bit emo.
we all have those moments in life.
Yes, we do.
Okay, so my last and best, saving the best for last, piece of media is, of course, Marco, you already know, Inuyasha, the manga. Here's the thing. I don't know if I've made it clear to our listeners, but I love Inuyasha. And I'm so happy I finally started reading the manga. What I love most is that I get to read stories that were cut from the anime. The anime is pretty true to the manga, but there are some changes. And I just love that I get to read, sort of the original script. I think I'm on like volume 26 right now, and it's crazy how I already know what's going to happen. But it's still so exciting to read, and I just think that speaks to how wonderful the story of Inuyasha is and how literally everybody on this planet should read the manga, should watch the anime. Either one. I don't have a favorite. Just guys, please consume Inuyasha. And no comment on Yashahime.
Is that all?
Yeah.
We did it. Yay.
What?
Anyways, you guys, that's our best first media of 2024. If you want to send us a voice message on Spotify for podcasters, there'll be a link in the description to do so below. We also have social media on the description, and that's everything. So goodbye.